Hello, my name is Ariel, like the mermaid. One of the things that is great about the internet is it gives a lot of people a voice that wouldn't have had a voice before. And it allows you to find similar-minded people, and it does provide an outlet for a lot of different people all over the place to have discussions about different issues. One of the problems with the internet, particularly with things like Twitter, which have like a very small character limit, is a lot of times when you're talking about sensitive topics, it can quickly get ugly. You know, I mean, a lot of times I think one of the problems is that a lot of people feel like if they don't, you know, write something that's very written very extreme and written very angry and whatnot, that people won't notice it. And I think that that's like a lot of times has been a thing that's like affected trans activists. I think that sometimes, I mean, because there's a certain amount of truth to it, I think that if, you know, when someone is saying something that is, you know, maybe they're not intending to be transphobic, but they're saying something that is, like cis-sexist or, you know, as, you know, is problematic, a lot of times you're not going to get noticed if you just, you know, say, hey, you know, that's not really, you really shouldn't say that, you know, or, you know, you're more likely to get noticed if you say, this person should drop off the face of the earth because they're, you know, such an awful transphobic person. Unfortunately, that is more likely to get noticed. And, you know, I think that there's a lot that can be learned from this. Like, for one, look out for, you know, if, when there are people who are calmly trying to point out your privilege or, you know, point out something that you said that it has potential to be hurtful and has a potential to be bigoted, make sure you are listening for that. I mean, similarly, another problem is people getting very defensive when people are calling them out on something, and it can escalate a lot from there. You know, if someone goes like, hey, you know, that's kind of sexist, or that's kind of transphobic, that's kind of homophobic, then someone goes like, yeah, how dare you say that, I'm an ally, so, you know, rah, you know, and then, it gets, you know, and then the back and forth, it starts getting more and more and more extreme, and people aren't in person to be able to be like, hey, you know, I didn't mean that, like, you know, and you don't, you know, that's the problem with online communication, is you don't, it's harder to empathize with a person the same way that you would in person. Like, you wouldn't just, you know, be able to as easily just go like, you're a fucking asshole, you know, to someone if they're right there, if they're just being like, well, you know, I think, and, you know, if you suddenly, you know, but that's the thing, you can't really know how someone's saying something, or, you know, there's a certain side to intent you don't get in just like a text form. And so, I don't know, I think it's just a message to everyone that be careful to not to, like, you know, just respond in a very angry, you know, heated way on the internet, because that's when things get really nasty and in an unnecessary way. And, you know, be careful to, like, kind of think, you know, when you see something that bothers you, you know, think before you just post like the, you know, you should drop off the face of the earth, or, you know, you're a, you know, just a, you know, whatever, sort of thing. You know, make sure you think before you, you know, and maybe consider, and a lot of times, like, again, with like things like Twitter, you're limited so much, and, you know, so it's hard to say, to give out like a really kind of clear, thing where you say, so, you know, try like other outlets, like, you know, Tumblr doesn't have a character limit, and like there's something, you know, if you are vlogging, for example, people get a different thing out of that, because they can actually see you, and they can empathize with you in a different way than if they just see a text thing, you know, because then you're not like, you feel less like a real person to them, and you just feel like, you know, they kind of can just personify you as the idea that, you know, from the idea that you expressed. And, you know, that's problematic. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential in social media, but we need to be careful as a culture, because it's basically empathy, and that's you can't get the same level of empathy from text things on the internet that you can get from like a actual face-to-face conversation. I mean, even just like through video, it's not really the same as being with someone in person. There's something different about that. And there's like, you can have more of a connection with someone if you're actually in person. So, I don't know. I guess just be mindful. Obviously, it's still important to be able to, call out people on things, but, things end up being way harsher on the internet than they do in a lot of times in real life, because it's easier to be an asshole on the internet, basically. So it's the unfortunate reality of it.